Hey, Jensen.
You're welcome for that.
Best con moment. Yeah, like awesome moment.
Perfect. Thank you.
So you're directing this first episode. Is this going to be the premiere? It's going to be episode 3. That's what. Okay. So you're directing episode 3 this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've directed a few in the past since season 6, going back to Weekend.
Yeah.
At Bobby's. How is this one? I guess like. Tonally, or does it feel like different? Like, what are you going for with this episode?
Well, it's more of a kind of a straightforward episode. It's still kind of making sense of what's happening within the story. So it's a bit of an expositional episode. There's a lot of advancing the mythology. Getting more information about what's going on, figuring out where all the chess pieces are, how we're going to play this situation, and so that's been kind of nice. It hasn't been, I'm not dealing with Demon Dean chasing Sam through the bunker. I'm not dealing with a weekend at Bobby's. This is more of like checking in with all the different fragments of the storyline and moving that story along. So it's nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan says he wants to do an episode. Have you guys talked about that? Have you talked with him about it, or the writers? Or...
I talked to Jeff quite a bit. He's a very dear friend of mine, and he's always been a big fan of the family that is Supernatural, and he's still very much a part of that family, and so I think he's gone off and had a very, very successful career, and is continuing to work and constantly works, and he will always work. He's just a great guy, and he's a very talented man. But I think that there's there's kindred spirits, I think, with Supernatural. He really just enjoys the set and the family and the story and his role within that story, and so yeah, he's always been kind of, hey, if I'm available, can I come back? And so if it works organically with the writers and they can find a way to where it makes sense, then I'm sure that they would love to do that. He would love to do that. No promise of it anytime in the near future. I don't know. Yeah.
When you were getting ready to direct an episode,
Yep.
And do you take any of the fan suggestions that you probably get a lot of feedback from the fans on social media?
Mm-hmm.
Do you get like anything into consideration?
Yeah, I mean, there's a communication that we have with the fans that I don't think a lot of shows have, and so to be able to take their temperature on storylines and on characters, you can get. I get inspired by that, and it will certainly. I don't want to say affect, but it'll inspire me to maybe do certain things with characters or with storyline or with this or with that. And I think ultimately that's what it is. We're telling a story, and we're going to pull inspiration from everywhere. And what better than a family of fans that have been invested in the show for a decade. So I think they're an amazing resource to have. And obviously without them, we wouldn't be working anyway. So.
One more question, guys.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
We're all fans of you and Supernatural. What are you a fan of these days?
Oh man, like television-wise? Anything?
What's your fandom?
What's my fandom? Gosh. I watch Game of Thrones. I watch Game of Thrones.
What's Game of Thrones?
What is Game of Thrones?
Is this cool indie show no one's ever heard of?
Yeah, it's this new show no one's ever heard of. Mainly because and I'll tell you the quick story. This is the quick rundown with how that happened. It was used in the show when Dean was sitting with Charlie and having like a marathon of Game of Thrones, and Dean was like, "What's Game of Thrones?" Well, I actually had that response in real life. So I called Robbie Thompson, who wrote the episode, and I'm like, dude, what is this Game of Thrones? Isn't this like that show where there's a bunch of naked guys running around? He's like, no, that's Spartacus. He's like, I'll tell you what, I'll send you the first and second. It'd already been on for 2 seasons. And I'm like, I don't know what the show is. I have no interest. He sends me the first 2 seasons on DVD. And I'm like, so it's like late at night. I'm home during the week. My family's down in California, and I'm in Vancouver. I'm like, oh, what could I? Oh, maybe I'll plug in one of these Game of Thrones. And I watched then I spent like the first week or 2 weeks watching all of season 1, watched all of season 2, and then I finally turned my wife onto it, and now she's fanatical about it. And so I couldn't walk away from it if I tried. So anyway, so we do watch that show, and that's about all I have time for. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, the Taylor Swift video was amazing.